Just Friday's Bookstream for October, which means today is the first day of Halloween. So fittingly, I'm wearing a shirt with coffins on it. And we are going to talk about dead people.
/ horror, spooky, scary books. That is our theme for October because obviously that's our theme for October.
Which means that it is my favorite because
Emily reads all the horror. It's her most fave.
Yes. So we have a huge cart full of books. We've divided them into categories. Our first category is going to be the slashers. I don't know why I'm stealing.
You're Vanna Whiting, the slasher book.
Yes. Okay. This didn't work as well as I thought it would.
It looks great on camera. It's just slightly awkward in person. You can't tell from the video.
Yeah.
There you go. Now it's better.
Okay. So, if you like movies like Scream and Halloween and I don't watch a lot of slasher movies.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I think that counts as
I
one.
think that's a slasher. That
Yeah.
sounds like a slasher.
Any other thing where there is like a crazy killer on the loose and people are getting picked off one by one, then these are books that you will like. So first we are going to talk about Just Kill Me, which is first because it is the most lighthearted of the slashers. Megan works on a Chicago ghost tour bus.
Oh, neat.
So they go around Chicago and talk about ghosts and ghost stories. And her boss keeps making jokes about killing people at the stops to make them more haunted. Turns out that maybe it's not just jokes. And there's also some ghosty weirdness going on. It was weird and funny, and I was entranced with it was bananas.
Okay.
I did not know what was going on ever, which was a good thing. I would say scare level is low, except for the end. The end was very unsettling, like the most unsettling. But that just made it more fun. And yes, so this is Just Kill Me. It's by Adam Selzer. Yay. Okay. There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins.
Just that title is unsettling.
There is someone inside your house. And this is actually going to be a movie on Netflix. If you watched our romance one, this is the same author as Anna and the French Kiss.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so she likes doing... Mm-hmm. So, Makani, I think is her name. She grew up in Hawaii, and then she had to move to the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, to live with her grandma because something tragic happened in Hawaii. And she's still adjusting. Things are weird because she's not white and the town is mostly white people. And then people start dying in extremely gruesome ways. And it quickly becomes apparent that there is a serial killer on the loose in the town who is targeting teenagers, since it's a YA book. Yeah. And Makani has to solve the mystery of who it is and then also help the police catch the killer before it is too late. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun. So this one was fun and easy to read. I seem to remember it being very gross in parts, like extremely gross. Like she did a great job describing the deaths. she also did a good job of making sure you were invested in the characters. So it's like when somebody died, you weren't just like, oh hey, another body for the
You
count.
actually care.
It was, oh no, that person died, even if you didn't know who they were before their little intersection, like until the scene where they died, and she does good character work. I would say high on violence, high on thrills, the low medium on scares, maybe?
Okay.
I don't know. But there is a companion book called There's Someone in the Woods or in the Forest or something that I haven't read yet because it just came out, and I'm really excited about it. It was checked out, so I didn't bring it down. So we have talked about the Mary Shelley Club before in our Back to School Book Fancy.
Yes.
So this is by Goldie Moldavsky. And after surviving something horrific, Rachel is going to a new fancy private school in Manhattan. She has become a huge horror aficionado since the tragedy that happened, that I won't explain because it's a spoiler. So she goes to a party at, like, in an abandoned house, I think. Might have been an abandoned warehouse. But she sees a kid putting away a tape recorder after a scary story that caused the popular girl to, I think, pull her extensions out or something. So she's like, I see that you did something there. So she starts following the guy and talking to him, and eventually she gets invited into something called the Mary Shelley Club, which is, I just realized maybe we should have done this differently because
I know we have kind of a Mary Shelley theme going on.
Yeah. We're gonna go backwards then.
Okay, that's fine.
So, Mary Shelley Club, people who like horror, they watch horror movies and do something called fear tests, which is they have a target and they have to come up with a plan to scare the target. Once the target screams, the test is done. They can't get caught. This was both funny and also genuinely scary at times. Since Rachel is recovering from a trauma, that was a big part of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting, I think, the dichotomy between like actual danger and the danger that you are sensing because you are scared because something traumatic happened. Yes. This is a slasher because while they are doing the fear tests, somebody with a knife keeps showing up.
Ooh, don't like that.
And they're like, is this a part of the test? Like, whose job was this? And they don't know. They truly do not know. So, yes. Good. Yes, good. Okay. The next category we have is gothic horror. And it starts with Jessie.
With one of the OGs. I'm sure you've heard of this book, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This was the first science fiction book ever written. So if you've ever enjoyed a science fiction in your life, you have Mary Shelley to thank.
Mm-hmm.
I read this book in high school for class, and it was one of those rare books I had to read for class that I still enjoyed. There's something about reading a book for class that just like kills all the fun of it for you, but not this guy. So you're probably familiar with the story. It's about, I feel like for context, it's important to explain that Victor Frankenstein is an undergraduate.
He's an undergraduate?
He's an undergraduate,
I did not know
like
that.
college student. So he's like 18, and he's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mash up some body parts from corpses and bring them to life, and now I've created this monster.
Yep.
And then his response to the fact that he had created a monster is to pass out and then try to pretend like it didn't happen.
Yep.
Which admittedly is extremely relatable.
Probably what I would do in the same situation.
Right, he's like, I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't create life out of a bunch of corpses. I also respect, as a writer, the move where Frankenstein is like, oh, I can't tell you how I made the monster because I don't want you to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, love that dodge for having to explain how that was scientifically possible. So, like I said, this is one of the OGs. It's super spooky. It's super, like, I don't know. It's got a lot of great ethical quandaries. I love an ethical quandary, as I've said on this stream before, but it's like, there's a lot involved with having created life from nothing. And Frankenstein's having to deal with the consequences of doing that. Meanwhile, this monster is like roaming around the earth, and like he's super mad about the fact that he exists at all, which is understandable.
Because nobody will interact with him because he's terrifying.
He's super spooky looking. So Mary Shelley, the OG goth. Check out Frankenstein for some spookiness, and then when you're done with Frankenstein, you can start The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. So
also, I need to say, this cover is amazing.
Oh, I'm obsessed with this cover. It's super cool.
It is supposed to be skin.
Yeah, it's like stitching it up.
Oh wait, no, the back is not skin.
No, it's fabric, but
fabric,
it's super creepy still. Like
I thought it was skin.
Like stitched. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So this book is written from the perspective of one of the characters from Frankenstein, who is Elizabeth Frankenstein, who is Victor Frankenstein's cousin, and this is like her whole story is super weird and creepy to start with, where they're like, he needs a companion and future wife, so let's bring his cousin to like grow up with him, and they'll be childhood friends, and then they'll get married.
Yep.
That's not weird. So this whole story is from her point of view, and it's her kind of slowly going crazy from all the like shenanigans and madness happening around her.
Because even before Victor went off and made monsters, he was a bit of a monster himself.
Yeah, he was not a great dude. So I love this as like a feminist retelling of what's arguably already a feminist story.
Yep.
So, take that for what you will. You can read either of them or read both of them together. I think they work well together.
They really do.
So there you go. That's our Frankenstein section for today.
Okay. So the rest of the Gothic horror, we're just going to do this time. We're starting with The Lottery. And everybody knows The Lottery. It's by Shirley Jackson. It's one of the greatest short stories written of all time. This is the graphic novel adaptation of it. So if you are interested in graphic novels, I'm not even going to explain what The Lottery is about because
you can't really explain what's creepy about it without giving it away.
Yeah. So read the short story, read the graphic novel, whatever you do, read Shirley Jackson.
Read Shirley Jackson.
She was a master at the atmospheric horror.
Oh, I should have grabbed We've Always Lived in the Castle.
Yes, that's what I was literally just thinking
One of my all-time faves.
It's such a good book. Basically, Shirley Jackson can do no wrong in the world of books I like.
If you need a horror book, just read anything by Shirley Jackson.
Yeah,
that's the solution here.
I would say her stuff tends to go on the unsettling side rather than the outright scary. So if you don't like a lot of big scares, but rather like the slow burn to something spooky's going on, Shirley Jackson's good for you. Okay. We are going to talk House of Hollow next, even though it's not the next one on the lineup. So House of Hollow is by Crystal Sutherland, and the best way to describe this book is what if Pan's Labyrinth, but a story of sisters who disappeared and then came back, and then the labyrinth wants them back.
Oh.
So it's kind of like the Pale Man, but it's the whole labyrinth.
You should also watch The Labyrinth.
You should.
It's
a good movie. It's really sad though.
And also Labyrinth with David Bowie, which is completely unrelated and
but also spooky.
Completely different vibe, but it is also spooky.
Yeah. So lots of good labyrinth things going on. So the three sisters disappear when they are children, and then they come back and they are different. They have pure white hair, black eyes, and they might be able to work magic, but maybe not.
Okay.
So it's just, if you like dark fairy tales, this is a book for you. If you like sort of the underside of cities except creepier, this is a good one. I forgot the actual premise of this one, is that they came back when they were kids, and now the oldest sister has gone missing.
Oh, okay.
So the two younger sisters are like, well, we gotta find her.
Right.
Yeah. And to do that, they have to figure out why things from their past mystery are showing up again. Just like, again, written very atmospherically. That's kind of what Gothic horror is all about.
Yeah. It's a mood.
Yeah. So, do we want to do this one?
Sure.
Okay. The Wicked Deep.
So the premise of it is that in this town in Oregon,
This is the
in the 1800s, there were these three sisters, and I think they all drowned. That's why it's the Cursed Deep.
Yeah, no, they were
Or the Wicked
suspected
Deep.
of witchcraft, and so they were drowned.
Okay, yeah, so they were drowned, and now I believe every year they come back as
Yeah.
spooky ghosts and
Drowned 3 boys.
drowned boys, yes. And so the
So
protagonist
they
of
each
the book,
claim one,
right, the protagonist is trying to stop this cycle from happening.
because she's in love with the boy she thinks is going to be the victim.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Or they mark them in some way. Somehow she has figured out that the boy she likes is gonna go under the water and not come back. And she's like, I don't like this. So she decides to try to stop it.
Yeah, it's also very spooky, atmospheric type of
Mm-hmm.
story.
With a good twist ending.
Yes.
Yeah, that was. Mhm. I love a twist.
Obviously, we can't tell you the twist
No.
on it. You have to read the book and find out.
But you should read the book and you should find out. Okay. So, the last one in this category is a good sidestep to our next category as well,
Nice.
which is going to be creature features. This is a retelling of Red Riding Hood, where there is a girl who lives with her grandmother, obviously. And after homecoming, something embarrassing happens after homecoming with her boyfriend. So she runs away from him and is running through the woods and finds a wolf. And it's not like a normal wolf, it's a clearly wolf that is bent on this girl's destruction.
Yeah.
So she battles the wolf, and then she kills the wolf, and then she goes home covered in blood, and the next Monday at school, one of the boys is missing.
Ooh.
So, one of the things I liked most about this book was the way she brought real life horror into it, because I'm just gonna say misogyny is terrifying.
It's the real horror all along.
Yeah. You kind of can't deal with horror without violence against women, because it's like
Yeah.
been there from the beginning. Even with Frankenstein.
I was gonna say,
Frankenstein.
see Elizabeth Frankenstein's terrible life.
And also the little girl that he accidentally kills. And, so the fact that this one is both a fairy tale retelling, which I love, and a sort of takedown of the boys will be boys culture, and I can't remember at what point she finds out what's going on, so I'm not going there.
Yeah.
It might be very soon, it might not be a spoiler at all. Yes. So, atmospheric, spooky, good. Would recommend. That's why we're here.
Yes, we're here to recommend all the books to you.
Okay. So, creature features. We've got I was wondering if there would have been a transition that we were supposed to have that I missed. I don't think there is. So, we've got ANGELFALL, which is, I mentioned it on, I don't even remember which stream, but there was a stream where I mentioned it, and it is back from the days of Twilight and, other paranormal romances. This is the way it was sold to me as a reader. I'm just gonna see when this was. 2012. This was written in 2012. So, right at the heyday of let's make everything paranormal and very romantic. This is not that at all. This is an apocalypse horror story where the angels have come and started the destruction of the modern world. People can't go outside without angels coming down and stealing them.
Oh, wow.
So that's basically how this one starts. Penguin has a little sister who is totally helpless. I think she's disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Their mother has not been very good at surviving in the 6 weeks since the apocalypse, which, relatable. So Penguin has been going out and foraging for food and doing all of the stuff that they need to do to survive. And then I think their building gets hit in the middle of a battle between angels or something, and they see her sister and take her, and Penguin's like, okay, gotta get my sister back. So she comes across an angel who has had his wings cut off by other angels because he did something bad for the angel things. I don't remember what he did or why they are mad at him, but they want to kill him. Cutting his wings off was kicking him out of their ranks. So Penguin rescues him from the situation he is in which he is probably going to be killed. And they decide to team up together because he wants to get his wings back and she wants to get her sisters back, and they are both at the Angel Stronghold in San Francisco. This is truly terrifying. There are not many books where I read a scene and there's an image in the scene that sticks for me, and now here we are, 2021, this book that I read in 2012 before it was published. I got an ARC at a convention. An ARC is an advanced review copy, by the way. I'm still thinking about it, and nobody else has heard of this book or read it, and I just need people to read it so I can talk about it. So please read it. I'm begging you, if you want a scary book that is definitely not a paranormal romance, even though somebody tried to tell me it was. Yes, good. Very good. Good book. Enjoy. This is why we own it, because I was like, we don't have it, and also I need people to talk about it with me. By the way, since this is horror, the director of the Evil Dead movies blurbed the back of the book. So, it's gotta be scary if the guy who did that, came up with that. The first one was scary, the second one they kind of go ridiculous. The second one includes a retelling of the first one.
Oh, love that.
And then they decide to go campy, and the third Evil Dead movie is just, like, that's not even a horror movie. It's just a comedy. But we are not here to talk about the Evil Dead. We are here to talk about creatures. So, this is a vampire book, as you can maybe tell from the cover. I haven't read this one, but I always love the descriptions of his books, and this is no exception. This one, there is a boy who is in high school, and he lives in a town full of vampires, and he hates it, as one would. But he goes about his business, and then one day a super hot boy shows up and he's a vampire, of course.
Sure, naturally.
And they discover that there is a cryptic warning saying that a great and terrible power is coming, and Augie, which is the boy's name, is the only one who can stop it. The mistake I always make is I always think his books are going to be funny from the descriptions, and then they're not funny, and then I'm like, oh, but I wanted it to be funny. And it's, so don't go into this thinking it's going to be funny. I have not actually heard whether it's funny or not, but I'm just guessing that it's not funny. But yes, Twilight, but gay, I think, is going to be my
I love that
description for
premise.
that. Yeah. And with bigger stakes.
Bigger stakes.
More like Twilight, but gay with Buffy the Vampire level stakes.
Love that.
By the way, this author writes novels in the Buffy universe.
Yes.
So if you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and are sad that it was in the 90s and you weren't alive then, you can go to the library and go to the W's in the YA section and find books. They will say Buffy universe on them, so they're very easy.
Very easy to
Yeah,
find.
I don't remember the titles. Okay, so this is called Into the Drowning Deep. It's by Mira Grant. This is not a YA book. This is a science fiction, or we have it in our science fiction section. One thing that people who know me know is that I really like cryptids. I think they are fascinating. This book is like What If Mermaid but cryptid.
Yeah.
So trying to think. There is a TV channel, cable, that has been, like, they made their fortune on let's try to find Bigfoot type documentaries. They've never found proof of a cryptid, but that doesn't mean they're going to stop trying, so they send a boat out to try to find existence of mermaids, because there's a place where the locals have stories. We're gonna do this so I don't have to hold it anymore. Okay. And so they go, and then the boat is never heard from again.
Oh.
Well, they find the boat, but nobody's on it.
Yeah.
Except for some of the footage from the cameras, which shows a very disturbing and gory selection of images and footage. They might have found the mermaids, y'all. And then the mermaids
find them.
Yep. Dun, dun, dun. So, because their previous documentaries never found anything real, people have decided that this was just a hoax. And I think it's the 10th anniversary of that ship's, like, disappearance. They decided, you know what, no, we're going to clear our names. These were real people who really died. We are going to send another boat out there.
Oh, that'll work.
To solve this mystery. So we're going to put scientists, there will be so many safeguards on this boat. We'll figure it out, everything will be great. Everything is not great.
No, I can't
It
imagine.
never is. But the sister of the, I think, host of the show that the documentary was like continuing or something, is a marine biologist. So she's like, I'm gonna go on that boat. I'm gonna figure out what happened to my sister. Also on the boat is her ex-boyfriend, I think. Oh no. Okay. I thought the computer died. It did not. It would have been fitting for the horror.
Sure.
So she goes on the boat, and her ex-boyfriend's on the boat, and a whole bunch of scientists are on the boat. 3 sisters, one of whom is deaf and speaks in sign language, who want to be the first humans to go down into the deepest parts of the ocean. And a whole bunch of professors. Like, there are lots of characters, and that means that there are lots of people to die. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Spooky.
It's gross. It's real gross.
I feel like this reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean 4, where they had the really spooky mermaids. Was it the 4th one that had the spooky mermaids?
I think so.
They had like the very scary, like drag you down into the deep, they have sharp teeth type of mermaids, and that's the only part of that movie I remember liking.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to read this book, because it reminds me of that.
Yeah, no, this is, I actually read it while waiting in line for the catacombs in Paris.
Oh my god.
It was the best. So, highly recommend if you want things that are scary and gory and not intended for teenagers. But if you can handle language and gore, then you are going to be fine with this book. Just fine with it.
YA horror is a very new genre. Like, for a long time,
Yeah.
teenagers just had to read grown-up horror. Because that's
I
all
read
there
Stephen
was.
King.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you read this, you are following a long line of teenagers who are reading adult horror novels. Okay. And also, Murder Mermaids!
Murder Mermaids.
So I think we wanted to go to weird stuff is happening and we can't explain it.
Yes. Inexplicable weirdness.
Inexplicable weirdness. Okay, so we're gonna just go along the line.
Alright.
The Woods.
So
This is a graphic novel.
This book is by James Tynion IV, who is amazing. He also wrote The Backstagers, which is one of my favorite graphic novels of all time.
Mm-hmm.
He is a great artist, great writer. I guess he doesn't draw them, does he?
No, he doesn't.
He's a great writer.
But he always works with really great artists.
Yeah, like I feel like the art is always incredible. You can see just from the cover of this book, like it's super cool looking. So the premise here is that a group of kids and their teachers go into the woods for like kind of an outdoor ed type of situation, and they accidentally fall into like this strange forest that is full of like horrors and creepy creatures. There's a creepy creature on the back here that you can see. And like nobody really knows what happened. They don't know how they ended up in this weird like alternate universe, and they have to like figure out how to get out of there while also fighting for their survival.
Yep.
So highly recommend if you're into a creepy graphic novel, picking up The Woods. There's several volumes in the series. This is
Ooh,
like,
I got some good spooky pictures on this one.
oh, there you go. That is spooky.
Yeah.
So yeah, for your spooky graphic novels, these are definitely ones to pick up.
Yep. I figure we should go for the next spooky graphic novel.
Spooky graphic novel.
So this one is actually from the children's section. That does not matter.
It's still very spooky.
So,
This one haunts my dreams.
okay. In horror, there is a subgenre called body horror. Body horror, as you can imagine, is horror that has to do with the body. So, things like The Thing and The Fly and, I think The Blob, if there are gross things happening with a body and it's scary, that's body horror. This is body horror, the graphic novel.
Basically.
So, These two boys are twins, and their mom is the director of the high school theater troupe. So they're at a big
It's tech week. So
yeah, it's tech week.
Yeah, in the midst of.
I think it's the night
Peter
before dress
chaos.
rehearsal. It's the night before dress rehearsal, it says.
There you go.
The two kids are hungry, so they start bothering their mom, and their mom is like, Sid, who is 16 and can drive, go take them to the taco place, which...
It's a like a drive-through taco place.
Yeah. So not your, like, your good tacos. Taco Bear. It's called Taco Bear. So they go to Taco Bear to get tacos for everybody, because it's like 1:30 at night. Nothing's open, nothing's awake. And when they get their tacos, the tacos start moving, and they don't seem like nice tacos. So they get rid of the tacos. They do not eat them, but everything is weird now. And that is all I can say before I give things away. But I'm just gonna open.
It's extremely cursed.
Yeah, this is probably the best page spread to show you what I'm talking about. Like, that's just a bunch of arms.
It's creepy.
Why? So yes, this is by Nathan Hale, who does the Nathan Hale's Hazardous Tales books, which are also good for all ages.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Like, we have 2 copies of it on this card because we love it so much. So yes, yes, good. Apocalypse Taco. Body horror, the graphic novel. Okay. I think we're gonna go with Oddity.
Okay.
This is a children's book, but again, much like Apocalypse Taco.
Don't let that put you off.
Yeah, because this is Welcome to Night Vale for a younger audience, if it was also the lottery.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
So, Ada she lives in Oddity, New Mexico, and things there are weird. Like, their gym class, they have to run away from actual, like, dangerous cats.
I think it's jaguars or leopards or something.
Yeah.
That's the first scene, is
they're
fighting
gym class.
leopards in gym class.
And there's obviously the straight man, as in any comedy.
Yes.
This is a kid from Chicago. He's like,
what
is this? Why? And they're just like, why are you weird?
Well, and her response
Caleb,
is something
I
I think it's Caleb. She's like, listen, Caleb, either start shooting at these leopards or get out of the way because I'm not losing to the 4th graders. That's embarrassing.
Yep.
Which I just think is such a great response.
So, the lottery bit is that there's something called the town's yearly sweepstakes. Children don't win, ever, I think.
Yeah, it's traditionally adults.
And last year, Ada's twin sister won it. So she can't find, like, nobody will tell her what happened. She hasn't seen her sister since. She really decides she needs to know what's going on.
It's one of those none of the adults will help me, so I'll do it myself type of books. Yeah.
And again, like with ANGELFALL, there were a couple scenes in here that I'm still like, I'm lying awake at night and I still think
Yes.
of them.
Very
Because
spooky.
that was terrifying.
The town is also run by anthropomorphic puppets, which is just a nightmare. Like
Wait,
that's
is
their that's their like town council or whatever is a bunch of puppets who like move and talk on their own. It's super creepy. The puppets are what haunt me. I forget what they're called, but they're creepy. Creepy puppets.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that later. I don't remember that.
There's also aliens, there's zombie rabbits.
Yes, zombie
There's a
rabbits.
talking kombucha, which I think is hilarious.
Carnivorous dumpsters.
Yes.
And something called the Blur Monster,
Oh, the Blur Monster is also unsettling.
which I think is a thing on the outskirts of town that makes things blurry.
Well, you can't see it. You can only see it like blurs reality on
Yeah.
the edges of where it is.
And then it like destroys
Comes and
everything
gets
that it
you.
touches.
Yeah.
So, all of these things and more she encounters on her search to find her sister. Good, scary. What is it? We don't know.
We don't know.
Since I
Speaking
mentioned-
of Welcome to Night Vale,
Ta-da!
which by the way is a spooky podcast that we also highly recommend. It's
And-
spooky and funny and also
Mhm.
like all other things.
Yes. I like spooky and funny. We have, I think, the books that are part of the Night Vale universe here. So if
Yeah.
you do like Night Vale, you could come and get the books.
You could even start with the books.
Yeah,
If you
that's what I
listen to the
did.
podcast, yeah. So this book, I'm obsessed with this book. I'm going to talk about it because it's my favorite. It's called The Halloween Moon, and this is definitely in our category of like weird stuff is happening and no one can explain it. So the protagonist is named Esther, and she is, I believe, turning 12 as of the book
I think
starting.
it's 13.
Maybe it's 13. Somewhere in the 12-13 range. Basically,
It's 13 because she had a bat mitzvah.
because she had a bat mitzvah. So she is obsessed with Halloween. She lives for Halloween. As far as she's concerned, the entire year revolves around Halloween. She always puts together the most awesome costume. She goes to every house in the neighborhood to trick-or-treat. But her parents have decided that she is now too old to go trick-or-treating. And
Which
she's
is
like,
not true.
yeah, and she's not happy about this. So she does what any 13-year-old girl would do, and she sneaks out.
Yep.
With her best friend, who is Augustine, I think.
Yeah.
So they sneak out and they go trick-or-treating, and something weird is happening while they're trick-or-treating.
Sounds about right.
People are not answering their doors, their lights are off, and they walk into what was a party of adults, and all the adults are asleep. So they figure out that all the adults in the entire town have fallen into this enchanted sleep. And the moon is like giant and orange, and there's these super creepy ice cream trucks going around that aren't actually ice cream trucks. One sells apples and one sells pumpkins, but they're super like they're playing like discordant music, like
Cool.
super spooky. So they're like, what the heck is happening? All the adults are asleep. We're the only people in town awake. And they find like the other two people in town who are awake, and basically they have to figure out what the heck is going on and how to get their town back. But again, this is another one. It's in our junior high section, but I found it genuinely unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some super spooky parts of this.
There are lots of books intended for children that are, I would say, scarier reading as an adult.
Yeah, like
Right, so
truly, like I feel like half the horror here is like unsupervised 13-year-olds. That's not terrifying if you're 13, but when you're a grown-up, you're like, oh my god, who's letting these teenagers roam around saving the world?
yes.
But Joseph Fink is really good. He is one of the creators of Welcome to Night Vale, which is why I keep mentioning that.
Yes.
I realized we never actually
We
explained
did that.
We're just like, here's a book. He's really good at writing things with beautiful language. So if that's something that you enjoy, recommend Halloween Moon, recommend Welcome to Night Vale, and also they'll scare the crap out of you if that's what you're looking for.
On a similar vein, we have 13s, which is by Kate Alice Marshall. I have a dog hair in my mouth.
Pet life.
Mm-hmm. So So, remember the name Kate Alice Marshall because it will come up again. This is called 13s, obviously, and it's, again, in the children's department. I have a lot of favorite genuinely terrifying children's books. This one, every 13 years in the town of Eden-Eld, 3 13-year-olds disappear. And Eden-Eld is one of those towns where, like, nothing goes wrong, everything is great, everyone's happy all the time.
Which means a murder is about to happen there, if I know anything.
So, Eleanor has just moved there after experiencing a traumatic event involving her mother. She lives with her aunt and uncle, who are about to have a baby, in a creepy old house that they were trying to fix up because they inherited it. And one day she wakes up and gets out of bed, and there's a grandfather clock outside of her door that was not there before.
Oh, weird.
And her aunt and uncle don't know what she's talking about. They're like, it was always there, wasn't it? And then she sees a dog with glowing eyes when she gets on the bus.
Oh, weird.
And then, like, just progressively weirder things that she doesn't understand where it's coming from. The kid she sits next to on the bus can see them too, and he's like, don't look at them.
Oh.
And so then she obviously needs to figure out what's going on there. So, she, and I think his name is Otto, and Pip is the girl, the other girl. They band together to figure out what is happening. There are lots of creepy parts. The ending is really, really good. I just realized I can't talk about it.
No, you can't spoil the ending.
And bringing up another comparison would spoil the ending, so I can't do that. So I'm just gonna say, read it. Just read it. Just read it.
I feel like half of these videos is us just being like, and the best part we can't tell you.
Yes. So you're gonna have to read it. Sorry, friends. Whoa. Okay. So this is our bridge between unexplainable stuff and zombies. This is about a school for girls called the Raxter School for Girls that has been under quarantine for 18 months.
Oh, relatable.
And then, like, it's on an island, so I don't remember if there's a town on the island too, but it's fenced in.
Ooh.
And the fence has been locked. The girls can't get out. Now, 18 months into the quarantine, like, first the teachers were dying. Like, all the teachers died off. And then the students started to catch it, and some of them died, but others just became strange. Weird things happened to their bodies. Again, body horror, it's great. So, pretty much the entire outside world has forgotten about the Raxter School for Girls. And the sickness that has killed all the adults and is creating body horror, it's called the Tox. But it made the woods outside the school very dangerous because I'm guessing it changed the creatures that live there as well as the girls. But they were promised that there would be a cure that was coming, so they've just been sitting and waiting, and nothing, like, no one is talking to them. They have stopped getting supply drops now, and the main characters are 3 best friends. One of them goes missing. So her 2 best friends are like, okay, well, so we gotta break out and find her. And that's when it really gets weird. this is a bridge to the zombies simply because there's a sickness. Like that's all there is here. And zombies usually happen with sicknesses. And it was creepy. It was good. If you like girl power books, this is a good one. I think girl power books are mostly our zombie books.
I mean,
So our other two of our zombie books. Undead Girl Gang, Girl Save the World in this one. I talked about Girl Save the World in this one last time because it is 3 or 4 best friends, depending on who you're talking to, who are at a zombie convention. One of them is a former best friend.
Oh,
so,
well, you know how it goes.
Yeah. All of them are at the zombie convention, and the zombies, like, people went all out for the costumes this year. Things look very real.
Oh.
And they are in a panel for their favorite zombie show, which was The Walking Dead, except it's a fictional Walking Dead. We have those graphic novels too, by the way. The Walking Dead.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And so they're in this panel, and they are, like, the actors are talking about the show, and then suddenly somebody in the audience starts screaming because one of those very convincing zombie costumes became so convincing that he bit the person sitting next to him. And that is when it dawns on them that zombies are real, zombies are here, and they need to figure out how to survive, and hopefully the actors who have been playing zombie hunters on TV can actually do some zombie hunting in real life, because they are all trapped in the same space together. Yay! So they're in the convention center, and the convention center is being quarantined, as happens in zombie media. And they have to find the other survivors, avoid the zombies, kill the zombies, maybe repair some friendships, maybe fall in love with cute boys.
Sure.
Like,
all the things you do in a zombie apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. I would not say that this one was scary, but there were lots of moments that were good. Like, I laughed a lot, and I think I cried once. I cry a lot, so that's not too surprising. And it's a very good book. Highly recommend it. Girl power saves the day from zombies. Like, friendship.
Love
Female friendships, yes. And you're going to talk about this one because I don't remember it.
Okay, great. I just started reading this one, so I haven't finished it, but I'm already obsessed with it. So the premise of this book is the main character, whose name is already escaping me. I'm the worst at main characters. Mila. Her best friend is dead.
Yep.
And so are 2 other girls in the town. And everyone is that, all the adults and everyone in her life is like, oh, it was suicides. They were stressed from school, and that led to them committing suicide. And Mila's not buying it. She's like, I know my best friend. That is not what happened. She was definitely murdered. So Mila's also a witch. She and her friend always messed around with some witchcraft, and she gets a book in the mail shortly after her friend's funeral that has a resurrection spell in it. And she's like, well, this is a sign from my bestie. She obviously wants me to resurrect her. So she does, but in the process also accidentally raises the other 2 dead girls from the dead.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden she's got 3 zombies, and I think it's 7 days to figure out what happened to them.
And they're slowly rotting. And the 2 other girls were bullies.
Yes, they're not friends. They were mean girls.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I love Mila because she's like, I've talked about this before, I love female characters who are like a little bit of a jerk. And like understandably a jerk, because like her best friend is dead and no one believes her that she was murdered. Like she's kind of pissed off at the world, and I love that for her. And I love a good magic book, and I love a good thing that mixes humor and horror. Like, when your best friend is slowly rotting because you brought her back from the dead.
There is a scene that is very funny where they go to Walmart and they go in the middle of the night because nobody will be able to tell that the 3 girls are dead. And I'm like, wow, I've been there.
Yeah, I feel like I've made that Walmart trip, to be honest with you.
Okay, So the next zombie book we have is also a space book, which is the next category. Zombies in Space is Contagion. So there is a teenage girl who won a prestigious internship with a science program in space, doing space things. And I think they maybe work for a corporation, they maybe don't, I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read it. But they get a distress call from another planet, and it's a mining operation. And so they decide to go check that out because they were forced off their planet because of a big solar storm or something. And if you hear a distress call, obviously you answer it. I think we learned from Alien that is, you do not do that. So they get to the place and they find out that it's just abandoned, there's blood everywhere. There are cryptic notes to not trust the kid, which nobody knows what that means. No. And they decide to try to figure out what's going on, because they can't get off world because somebody has cut the flight lines in their ship. I don't remember what the actual problem was, but there was a problem, and it was a bad problem, so they can't get out. So while they are stuck there, they decide to investigate because they're idiots. And I mean, the book is called Contagion, so you can probably figure out what happened to lead to the need for a distress call, especially since they're minors. And they go to, I think, one of the mining outposts, which is full of dead bodies. They're just there, so they lower one of the guys down, and one of the dead bodies grabs his leg. Nobody believes him that it was a dead body that grabbed his leg, but his leg is grievously injured. So they're like, okay, we gotta get back to the ship, maybe they fixed it, we gotta get this guy off planet. And on their mad dash back, they lose the intern.
Oh no.
And she ends up in another outpost. And that is where she finds the kid that she were warned against. And he says that he can get her back to her crew, but only if they take him with them when they leave.
Okay.
So, and then there are zombies. And this is, I think, the first book that I read where I was reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, this needs to be a movie. Yeah. Because I could just see what happens. I don't do the thing where I get pictures in my head when I read. Apparently that's weird. Apparently most people do. I don't hear a voice when I read either.
What do you hear then? Just
Nothing. It's
weird.
Just, yeah, okay. So 172 Hours on the Moon is the second space horror book. There's a reason that we never went back to the moon, but this corporation has decided we're going to go back to the moon.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, and not only are we going to go back to the moon, but we are going to bring a teenager, or 4 teenagers, because that will get the public interested in it, and we will be able to get sponsorships. I think they're working with NASA. Oh no, there's not a corporation, it's just NASA. NASA has been like, okay, nobody cares about us anymore because all of those corporations are doing the space thing. So how about we send 4 teenagers to space and so they can live on the moon for 172 hours. This is translated from, I think, Swedish. Norwegian. Translated from Norwegian. So, as in most translations, the language can be kind of choppy, which is necessary when you are trying to match the feeling of words, which is extremely important in a horror novel, and was accomplished extremely effectively in this one. So, the teenagers are on the moon, and then they find out why we never went back to the moon, and it's bad, it's real bad, and I can't tell you why. But, what I can say is that it starts off with, somebody with with I think footage of the last trip to the moon or something. Maybe. And one of the astronauts on one of the Apollo missions, like the last one, sees something in his helmet behind him as he is getting on the lunar rover to leave. And it is one of his fellow astronauts, walking very slowly towards him, except for that astronaut is on the lunar rover and he can see him right in front of him.
Oh.
So, something freaky's going on there. Okay. It's good. It was scary. The ending was phenomenal. Okay. Our last category was
Ghost story.
Ghosts and stuff. We are going to start with Rules for Vanishing because it's Kate Alice Marshall, and I said remember that name, and so we have to do it. So, Sarah's sister went missing a year ago. And people think she just ran away, but Sarah is pretty sure she didn't do that. Sarah's sister her name is Becca. She was intensely interested in a local ghost story / urban legend. And so she was researching it, and it's the story of Lucy Gallows, who I think died going down a road or something. So an urban legend slumber party game evolved out of that.
Yes, that name sounded familiar to me.
I think there really is a game or something, I don't know. But if you follow Lucy's rules, you can go on her road. And Sarah's convinced that's what Becca did.
Oh.
So she is also going to follow Sarah's rules, which you can only do one night a year. And then some kids from school follow her to the location. I think she needs one other person for one of them. So she convinces her friends to go, and some other kids follow. And so there's now a whole group of them who are going to go into the woods to do Lucy Gallows' game. It works.
Oh no.
Unlike Bloody Mary or any of those. And that is as far as I can go without spoiling it. But there were some truly terrifying things happening here. I would say this one had it all because there are ghosts, there was body horror, there was like you don't understand what's going on. It was just exhilarating.
Yeah.
I finished it, and then I was like, but what actually happened though? Because maybe something else happened. You don't know. But it was very good. It was very good.
Okay.
And more people need to read it. That's Rules for Vanishing. Okay. The Agony House is your typical haunted house story, except it's not really, because it is half graphic novel. This is what Sherry Priest is really good at. She does books that are really interesting because she intertwines a graphic novel into them. So it's like a fundamental part of the story. In this one, I think her name is Denise. Denise and her mom and her stepdad left New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. They have just come back and are in an old house that they are fixing up because that's what they could afford.
Right.
And they find a box of old comics in the attic, and then things start going hinky. There are weird voices, things like turning off and on by themselves and opening by themselves and closing by themselves. And Denise figures out that the box of comic books was actually the final project of a famed, mysterious comics artist who disappeared in the 50s. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to solve this mystery. Because this can't be ghosts, right? But it might be ghosts.
It could be ghosts.
Yeah. So the novel is great. The excerpts from the comics is great. Like, the whole thing is wonderful and very entertaining. So this is another haunted house book. I haven't read it yet, but I'm very excited to because it's by Tiffany D. Jackson, who everything I've read by her has been like a thriller. So I'm really curious to see what she does with a ghost story. This is another girl who, her name is Marigold. One of her parents, I don't know which one because I haven't read it, gets married, and so she has a new blended family. They move to a dilapidated little house in California. Or, no, they moved from California, I think. Yeah. The house is free. I'm reading the inside cover. And Mary has to share the house with her new bratty 10-year-old stepsister. Oh no, this house is not dilapidated. This house is perfect.
Supposedly.
Yes. But it's between super dilapidated houses, and the neighbors are terrified of the nice house.
Huh.
So this sounds really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna read that now.
I also recommend everything else Tiffany D. Jackson has written. Like, she's top notch at keep you guessing till the end thriller type things.
Yeah.
Most of the books by her I've read, you never really know what happens until the very end, and even then you might not be sure. So a ghost story, yeah, really excited about this. This one is brand new, just came out. R.L. Stine says it's creepy, frightening, and he wanted to scream.
Well, you can trust R.L. Stine.
You can. He's a master.
You can trust anyone on horror.
Yeah. And then we're going to go to The Diviners by Libba Bray. So this is historical fiction. It is about a girl named Evie who I think lives in Wisconsin. I don't know where, but it doesn't matter because she gets exiled because she caused too much trouble at a party. It's the 1920s. It's 1926. So her parents are like, okay, you're going to go live with your uncle in New York City. And she's like, this is a punishment, how? So she is like, I'm going to be all glitzy and glamorous. She quickly makes friends with one of the Ziegfeld girls. And the only problem is that her uncle runs a museum of the occult and is very obsessed with all of the occult things, and she is like, I'm not interested in this. This is not cool. This is not glitzy. This is not glamorous. But then there is a murder, and the police call her uncle out to help, and she's like, I want to go too. The thing about Evie is that she has a special gift. If she touches something, she can get memories from it.
Oh, weird.
So he is like, okay, yeah, no, if you come, you will actually be able to help. So he brings her along, and she touches a thing. It goes poorly. And she discovers that they are dealing with a supernatural serial killer.
Oh, spooky.
So, lots of spooky. This is an entire series. There are 4 books. The second and third ones were much scarier than this. This one was still had its very scary moments. I really love the entire series, but yeah, she's not the only one with gifts.
Mysterious.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so if you are at all interested in the Roaring Twenties and spooky ghosts and death, as in spooky ghosts killing people, then you should read this. If you want a book that is very long but is still a fast read, you should read this. Because this is a lengthy book. And I think that's all I have to say about it.
Alright.
Because it's just good. Yeah. Spooky ghosts.
Alright, last but certainly not least, we have Master of Horror, Neil Gaiman. I didn't bring Coraline, but I could have brought Coraline.
Coraline is my favorite.
Brought a number of things by Neil Gaiman, but I love this one. Let's see, Nobody Owens is the name of the protagonist.
Yeah.
And he was raised in a graveyard by ghosts, but he is a human. And so he's being hunted down by a group of creepy dudes, and he has to, fight for his life and also reconcile with the fact that he has to eventually leave the graveyard and leave.
Because graveyards are no place for a living boy.
Right, that he has to go live in normal life, and he's used to only interacting with ghosts. Mm-hmm. This is a beautiful, atmospheric, really lovely, well-written book, full of spooky ghosts.
Yeah. If you like audiobooks, I highly recommend the audiobook that's read by the author.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't listened to the one that's a full cast recording, but the author read one is phenomenal. My dad and I listened to it on our way back from one of the years he drove me home from college.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great.
It's a good selection for listening to in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the other scary things that Neil Gaiman has done. There's Coraline,
Right.
which again, scarier for adults because I read it as a young person and it was not scary at all. Some of his adult stuff gets. He's really good at dark fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really his thing.
So dark fantasy's great. Horror.
Yeah. American Gods is supposed to be horror, but I found it horrifying.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah. I guess it's not supposed to be horror.
Neverwhere has some good horror moments.
Yes, Neverwhere is spooky.
Neverwhere is also a good YA crossover book.
Agreed.
Yeah, so,
Neil Gaiman, check him out.
Yep.
He's great.
Yep. All of these authors are great. Truly. Okay.
Alright, I think that's it from us.
Yes. So, this has been the beginning of Spooktober. Hopefully you have found a book that you want to read, or several books that you want to read, or maybe you have books you would like to recommend to me. I just remembered a book I forgot. Okay. So there is a book called Not Even Bones, I think, that is about a girl whose mom works on the black market for, I'm going to say cryptid creatures,
Okay.
kind of. The girl does not catch and sell their body parts on the black market. She just autopsies them. Like, that's her hobby. That's what she does for fun. She decides to help one of the subjects escape once, and then everything bad happens. So everything bad happens. She wakes up in a facility. She doesn't know where her mom is. She is pretty sure she's being tested on. And she doesn't much care for being on that side of the glass.
Sure.
So she needs to break out, save herself. I think save her friend who was there too, who was the guy that she rescued. If you like gory things with creatures, that's a good one. That's also a good one for if you like very unexpected plot twists that were perhaps expected, but I didn't expect it. So I'm calling it very unexpected. Other people might have expected it. I don't know. But yes, I'm always looking for new scary books to read, so if you have a recommendation, please let me know.
Catch us next month, first Friday of the month, same time, same place,
Yes,
4 p.m.
it'll be November.
It'll be November, my goodness. Who knows what books we'll do for November? Not me.
Nor I.
The only way to find out is to watch our November stream.
Yep. Whatever they will be good.
Yep.
That is our guarantee. Okay, I'm gonna say happy first day of Halloween.
Woo!
And have a great month.